Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another what I eat in a day as a vegan. And so for breakfast one day recently I made some coconut breakfast rice pudding. I actually had some leftover cooked brown rice in the fridge, so I placed that in a pan on a medium heat, then poured in enough coconut milk to cover it, and also squeezed in some of Coconut Merchant's coconut honey, around 2 tablespoons, which I love as a sweetener. I then just brought that up to a gentle simmer and cooked it for around 15 minutes until it was heated right through. I then turned off the heat and let it cool down slightly before then adding in a couple of spoonfuls of coconut yogurt. I then just stirred that through until it was really nice and creamy. Then on top of it I sprinkled some desiccated coconut. This one is from Coconut Merchant as well. A few hemp seeds. I added on some sliced strawberries, blueberries and raspberries, then topped it with some flaked almonds. This is such a good way to use up any leftover rice from the night before. You could do this with white rice too if you wanted. You could also add in different flavourings like cinnamon or vanilla powder, and it works great not only as a breakfast but also as a little snack or dessert too. A little while later on, as a snack, I had one of these Love Raw butter cups. These come in 3 different flavours: peanut butter, which is like a healthier Reese's Pieces, salted caramel made with almond butter, and then hazelnut butter, which tastes like Nutella. There's 2 chocolate cups in a pack and they have a nut butter filled centre. They're all equally as good as each other, but I do love anything salted caramel, so that's the one I had. The almond butter centre with the chocolate coating is so good. I actually just had one and I put the other in the fridge for later on. These are obviously vegan, they're also palm oil free, non-GMO, they contain less than 6 ingredients, and they have now also launched in Boots, so you can find them in Boots stores and online. For lunch I made a big salad and I had some tomato herb bread on the side. To make the salad I just shredded a head of romaine lettuce. I then halved a handful of cherry tomatoes, sliced up a third of a cucumber, chopped up some jarred artichoke, sliced some large green olives and an avocado. I then added everything into a large bowl and tore in a good handful of fresh spinach. I then also made a dressing in a separate bowl by adding around 1/4 cup of chopped basil, 1/4 cup of chopped parsley, the juice of half a lemon, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of hemp seeds, half a teaspoon of dried mixed herbs, 2 cloves of minced garlic and some salt and black pepper. I then whisked that all together really well and poured it over the salad. Then using some tongs I just turned it all through. I next cut up 2 slices of crusty seeded bread and placed them in a flat pan on a low to medium heat. I brushed both sides with some olive oil, toasted one side and then flipped it over, and on the toasted side I spread on some tomato puree, then sprinkled over some finely chopped basil and parsley left over from the dressing that I'd made, and then just used the remaining oil on my brush to go over the herbs. Then once the underside was toasted as well, I then flipped it back over and toasted on the tomato side for a few more minutes. I then just plated up the salad and placed the tomato and herb bread on the side. Sometimes I just crave something green for lunch, and I'm not the kind of person to really eat just a salad for lunch, so when I do I like to really pack it out with a variety of ingredients and also make a really good dressing to go over it. I loved all of the flavours and textures in the salad and the dressing worked lovely with it. The bread Oh my god, the bread. I love making toasted bread like this. The tomato and herb kind of spread on the top is so good, and again it went really nicely with the salad. You can also tear off chunks and add them into the salad, kind of like croutons. I didn't really have a snack as such in the afternoon, but I did make an iced tea. You guys know my favourite ever loose leaf teas are by Bird & Blend, and they kindly sent me 2 of their teas to try from their spring tea collection, Banoffee Rumba and Pink Grapefruit. Whenever you get a peek inside my tea cupboard, it's always their teas in my tea jars. I'm low-key obsessed with all of their flavours. They're so good. Their new Banoffee Rumba is like all the flavours of banoffee pie with cream and a splash of rum. And Pink Grapefruit is a blend of juicy, tangy pink grapefruit with green tea, and both are so delicious, either hot or iced. I went for the banana rumba. I took a teaspoon of this in my French press, which I actually use for loose leaf tea. I also just peel the label off the packets and stick them on the bottom of my jars so I know which tea is which. I then filled the French press with boiling water, let it brew for around 4 minutes, then I removed the infuser and leave the tea in the jug to cool down. I placed some ice cubes in my keep cup, poured in some of the tea. I keep the rest in the fridge for the following day. And then either coconut milk works great with this because of the banana rum flavours, but I used some oat milk. It makes it really creamy. I just slowly pour it in and then watch it do its magic. Then fill it up to the top. As I said, this is also really lovely as a hot tea. It's great if you're craving something sweet, but it's also so refreshing iced, with or without milk. Bird & Blend have also kindly given me a discount code for you guys, so you can get 20% off your first order, and the discount code is in the description box below this video. Later on for dinner, I made some red onion, aubergine and sun-dried tomato meatballs. I first made a marinara by adding a tablespoon of oil into a medium pan. I then chopped up 3 shallots, then added those to the pan. Whilst those were softening, I minced 3 cloves of garlic. I then added those to the pan and cooked everything off for another minute. I added in a tablespoon of tomato puree, then 1 teaspoon of paprika and 1 teaspoon of dried herbs. I stirred that through and fried the paste off for around a minute. Then I added in a can of chopped tomatoes and filled half the empty can with hot water and poured that in. I also added in a tablespoon of coconut sugar, which is something I've started to do. It makes it taste a lot less acidic, then seasoned with salt and black pepper. I gave it a good stir and brought it up to a gentle boil and left it to simmer on a low heat. Then in a large shallow pan, I added a tablespoon of oil. I next chopped 1 red onion, added it to the pan and allowed it to soften. I then minced 3 more cloves of garlic, added those to the pan and then cooked everything off for around another minute. I added 1 teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of dried herbs and half a teaspoon of dried chili flakes next, and stirred that through. I then roughly chopped an aubergine into cubes and added that into the pan, then fried it off for around 10 to 15 minutes until it began to brown. Whilst that was cooking, I placed 3 small slices of crusty seeded bread in the toaster to toast, and once done, I placed those in my Maggi mixed food processor. I then pulsed them a couple of times to break them up before blending them into breadcrumbs, which ended up looking something like this. To the breadcrumbs, I then added the cooked aubergine mixture, 1 cup of roughly chopped sun-dried tomatoes, 1/4 cup of chopped basil, 1/4 cup of chopped parsley, a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, and I seasoned with salt and black pepper. I then blended that up until it was thoroughly mixed together and looked like this. I roughly took a heaped tablespoon of the mixture at a time, then rolled each one between the palms of my hands to form little meatballs, and this makes 12 altogether. I placed all of the meatballs back in the large shallow pan, which I'd lightly drizzled some oil into, and I fried them off until they started to go brown, just constantly turning them. Then to the marinara sauce, I added a good handful of fresh spinach, let it cook down, and then I transferred the sauce into the meatball pan and just shook them through the sauce. I gave the pan that had the marinara sauce in a quick rinse, filled it with boiling water and a pinch of salt. Then I added in 2 portions of linguine. Once the linguine was cooked until al dente, I served that up first in pasta bowls and then divided the meatballs on top along with the sauce. I finished by just sprinkling some fresh chopped parsley all over the top. This is actually probably one of my new favourite recipes I've come up with. These are so good. I've shared my mushroom meatball recipe before, and this is just yet another way to make a vegan version of meatballs. There's so many flavours packed into them. They are incredibly tasty and the texture is perfect. You could use any kind of sauce you like with this. You could use a basic passata. Instead of making the breadcrumbs, you could opt for shop-bought pre-made breadcrumbs as a bit of a shortcut. And obviously you could serve these meatballs with whatever kind of pasta you like. Then for something after dinner, I placed the other Love Raw salted caramel buttercup left over from the morning in a bowl. I then placed that in the microwave for around 20 seconds until it became slightly gooey. Then around it in the bowl, I placed some fresh strawberries and also some raspberries, and I basically just used it as a kind of nut butter chocolatey dip for the berries. You guys know my go-to dessert is some kind of fruit and melted chocolate. I think there's nothing better, but this was so good because of the warm nut butter centre too. That's it for another day on my plate. I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, all of the recipes are in the description box for you to use. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!